we need a performance guy. And this one took me some thinking. I really was not sure what route that I wanted to go here at first. Originally, I figured that I should probably go with Mr. Train Like an Athlete himself, right? AKA Athlete X. Just kidding, I'm not off my rocker just yet. What's up guys, Enkiri here. Today I want to go over 3 legit YouTube channels that I recommend that produce top quality, highly informative fitness content. And I'm going to do this a little bit differently from how I've seen other people do this kind of video. Personally, my own training goals are quite a bit varied, right? They don't all rest inside of one domain. I kind of train for a little bit of everything so that I can ultimately become as well-rounded as possible. I do have specific areas of focus in my training, but in general, I want to be a beacon of overall fitness, and that entails absorbing information from many different realms. So I'm going to break the video down into 3 different facets of fitness today, and we're going to highlight 3 different guys who are, in my opinion, top tier in their own respective realms. We're going to check out a strength guy, then we're going to check out a hypertrophy guy, and then we're going to finish up the day with a performance guy. And since personally I'm biased to explosiveness and power training, that performance guy will be a guy who trains similarly to that style. Now, obviously, this list is not comprehensive. It doesn't cover all aspects of fitness, and there are a few other fitness YouTubers whose content that I also recommend. And if you guys enjoy this video, maybe I'll put out another installment like this in the future. But for today, we're just going to start out with these 3 guys, so let's dive right in. And I'm just gonna spoil this one right off the break. It's fucking Johnny Candido of Candido Training HQ. I've been watching Johnny's content since freaking like 2014 or something like that, back before I even made actual YouTube videos, when I still had a real job and just posted the occasional big squat on my own YouTube channel. And I watched this motherfucker eat 100 chicken McNuggets and squat 225 pounds 445 times, 445 reps without leaving the gym, which is just fucking absurd. And today Johnny is an elite world-class powerlifter. He competes in the USAPL, or at least he has been competing in the USAPL, but I think he might be done with that organization at this point, but I'm not really sure. You'd have to ask him about that. But anyway, he squats over 600 pounds, he deadlifts just about 700 pounds, and he's making a push to crack 400 in the bench press, all at a body weight of about 180 or 190 pounds, which is pretty goddamn impressive. Along with that, he is a technical master, at a minimum, on both the sumo deadlift and the low bar back squat. Now, his YouTube content these days is somewhat sparse, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because he's not just making content for the sake of making content, which we can't say that about everybody. And what he does put out is solid freaking gold. He recently had a discussion on his channel with another elite level powerlifter about why the current rules in powerlifting for the bench press should be changed, and how what is currently going on with that lift is not really within the spirit of powerlifting competition. And this is a conversation that when I was still doing competitions, powerlifting competitions a few years ago, you would get booed out of the fucking gym by powerlifters if you even suggested that there's something potentially wrong with the bench press and that the rules need to be changed or amended or whatever. So that was a brave but very important video for him to make. In recent history, Johnny has also highlighted several other very talented and incredibly strong lifters on his YouTube channel, such as Ray Williams, Ashton Ruska, and I think Dan Bell was the most recently of all, which it's always nice to see that sort of thing from popular social media figures like Johnny. And he puts out fantastic information about how to train specifically for building strength by using new and emerging information regarding long-standing and widely utilized techniques such as RPE, or rate of perceived exertion, as well as information about how to program for powerlifting and strength training in general. He has a very good video about how to improve your grip specifically for deadlifting. He occasionally highlights awesome accessory exercises to improve your squat and your deadlift, like belt squats, plat squats, reverse hack squats, and snatch grip sumo deadlifts. And now I use several of these exercises myself, as well as with several of my clients. Johnny also battled a bad string of injuries a few years ago, along with a pretty bad back injury that he had to overcome in order to get back to an elite level in powerlifting and the training that is required to maintain that level and build off of it. And he was not afraid during that time period when he was hurt and wasn't even sure if he was going to be able to come back. He wasn't afraid to admit that he had those injuries in the first place, which is not an easy thing to do on social media for somebody like Johnny, because people love to fucking injury shame. Oh, he only hurt himself because he's stupid or he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Never mind the fucking fact that when you're training for world-class performance, you know, sometimes shit fucking happens. But whatever, I digress. But because he was bold enough to talk about it in the first place, he was able to put out a slew of fantastic content regarding the injuries and his rehab and how he was ultimately able to come back from them and some of the things that helped him the most in being able to do so. So just overall, his content is really, really good. He's been in the YouTube game and the strength training game and the powerlifting game now for quite some time. He's very experienced, he's very smart, he keeps up with current best practices, and he isn't afraid to evolve and experiment with new concepts and new ideas in his own training. And he just, in general, he knows what the fuck he's talking about when it comes to building massive strength. More so than 99% of the people who post shit on YouTube and Instagram, even a lot of people who are known as strength guys. So if you're looking for a top source, a highly reliable source of information in this regard, then look no further than Johnny Candido. I'm sure that you've already heard of him, but if you haven't, then you need to go subscribe to his channel right fucking now, because you're missing out on a hell of a lot of knowledge if you aren't. And next up is our hypertrophy guy. And here I had a little bit tougher of a time deciding on who the top pick should be for this particular video. But ultimately, I decided to go with Dr. Mike Israetel of Renaissance Periodization. Now, Dr. Mike got his PhD in sport physiology from East Tennessee State University. He's currently a professor in the strength and hypertrophy master's program at Lehman College, and he's been consistently putting out fantastic, highly informative YouTube content for just about a year now. Prior to that, like last year, 12 months, 13, 14 months ago, it looks like it was mostly just brief exercise demos that were the predominance on the RP YouTube channel. But these days, Dr. Mike gets in front of the camera multiple times per week, and he covers a whole assortment of topics related specifically to hypertrophy training, but he also discusses strength training, injury prevention and management, as well as nutrition. Personally, I look to him mostly for advice on muscular hypertrophy, as that seems to be his main passion and his true forte, but all of his lectures are incredibly informative regardless of the topic. Dr. Mike is the guy who's talked extensively about the stimulus to fatigue ratio and its relationship to RIR, or reps in reserve, on any given set in a training session. And basically, his whole thing here is, how can we create the absolute most stimulation for muscle growth within a training session or across a training block with the minimum amount of fatigue accrual? The greatest stimulus to fatigue ratio. And the greater that your SFR, the longer that your mesocycles can be, the longer you can accumulate training volume, and the more that you're essentially optimizing your training time spent in the gym. You're creating more hypertrophy per unit of time spent training. An example that I've heard him use before is that you kind of start each training block with a certain level of fatigue allotment. And basically, once you've hit that allotment, once you've accrued the fatigue to that specific threshold, then you're going to kind of have to, the training block kind of culminates, and you're going to have to end the block there and deload, because your progress is going to stall at that point if you don't. So basically, the greater that your SFR, your stimulus to fatigue ratio, the more hypertrophy that you'll be able to create before that allotment is reached. So it's a way of optimizing your training, essentially, maximizing your time spent in the gym. And I think it's a very cool and very interesting concept. And it's kind of a good way of looking at training with a more enlightened, yet somehow simplified perspective. And in addition to that sort of information, he's also got a few highly informative video series going on at the moment that I've been keeping up with as well. He has a series about nutrition myths, for example. He recently discussed relatively in depth how the ketogenic diet does not actually burn off more body fat than other diets, which seems to be something that a lot of people believe. But rather, it simply burns an amount of body fat that is commensurate with the caloric deficit that you're able to maintain while you're dieting, which makes fucking sense. And I thought it was a very interesting and informative video overall. He's also got a series on strength training myths, kind of similar to the nutrition one. And one video that I watched recently was a very good piece about how you should not deadlift more than one time per week and how that's a fucking myth, which I agree with completely. I actually have multiple clients of mine who deadlift twice per week for a good portion of the time with very great success. And another myth that he's busted is that you need to max out to get stronger, which you don't. And that's actually another topic that I've touched on before in one of the articles on my website called Powerlifting is Not Strength Training and Vice Versa. And along with that, he also covers a whole host of other highly informative topics on his channel as well, such as how to break through plateaus in your training, how to progress within a mesocycle, when and how to deload, how long to rest between sets, how to plan the different phases of a training cycle, and so much more than I can possibly cover in just a few minutes. He's also a big proponent of training exercises through a full range of motion, which is awesome, especially from a bodybuilder. And he's a science and research-based guy as well, right? The About section of the RP channel says, quote, "Our approach is the rigorous application of scientific principles to nutrition and training. Everything we do is built on a foundation of peer-reviewed literature and experimentally confirmed theory." And to me, those last three words are the most important part there. Experimentally confirmed theory. Dr. Mike walks the walk too. He doesn't just sit in front of the fucking camera and yammer on about optimal training and nutrition strategies. He also trains hard and puts in the fucking work, and he shows us to that on his channel as well. And at the same time, proves that his theories and ideas also have a practical and applicable basis. He's not just a nerd crunching fucking numbers and telling you that you're doing it wrong and he knows better than you do. He's also walking the walk, and there's simply no real substitute for that. So check out his stuff. It's a great channel, Renaissance Periodization, and I guarantee you that if you start watching his stuff, you will learn way more than you ever thought that you had left to learn. And last but certainly not least, we need a performance guy. And this one took me some thinking. I really was not sure what route that I wanted to go here at first. Originally, I figured that I should probably go with Mr. Train Like an Athlete himself, right? AKA Athlete X. Just kidding, I'm not off my rocker just yet. But in all seriousness, I had a few channels that I was considering for this one, and ultimately my bias towards speed and power training is what won the day for this particular selection. Obviously, there are many different types of performance, and I'm subscribed to several great channels that showcase it in some of its different forms. But I started to kind of lean towards running and jumping prowess here, speed and power training, because that is one of my main passions, if not my main passion of all. And ultimately, I decided to go with Isaiah Rivera here. Isaiah is a professional dunker, so his training is more jump oriented than speed or running oriented, for example. But the methods that he uses to accomplish the goal of jumping higher for better, more awesome dunks are pretty much universal to those speed and power adaptations that I frequently discuss on my channel. And it would in reality only take a small bit of tweaking to turn a jump focused program into a speed or general power oriented program. So even if your goal is not to jump higher per se, there are still going to be plenty of golden nuggets to take away from this particular channel. And his stuff is great. I discovered Isaiah's channel just a few months ago, and other than the obvious specific jump training and dunk practices somebody who competes in dunk competitions would require, Isaiah also focuses a lot on heavy squatting in his training, both front squats and back squats, which is obviously something that I'm partial to myself. He also does a lot of power cleans, both from the floor and from the hang. I've seen him incorporate high pulls, which is another exercise that I'm incredibly fond of, as well as trap bar deadlifts, weighted jumps, Nordic curls for the hamstrings, hip thrusts for the glutes, some lunge variations, and he even seems to regularly incorporate the 40-yard dash into his program, just to keep the nervous system sharp and help build general power and explosiveness in the legs. And in watching his video on weighted jumps, he even touched on how he has actually received a lot of hate for incorporating that specific exercise because people keep saying that it's dangerous for the knees and for the back. But he goes on to explain, and this is a quote from him, that an exercise is bad for you only if you're not ready for it. Which kind of falls completely in line with my assertion of there are no contraindicated exercises, there are only contraindicated people. So overall, I just really like the philosophy that Isaiah's channel preaches, and the methods that he espouses for building power and building explosiveness are rock fucking solid.
His information's rock solid. I fucking enjoy his fucking information.
It's just a dude doing what he loves and putting in some hard-ass, honest work on a handful of key exercises while applying and following the foundational principles of power training and teaching those principles to you, the viewer, along the way. So really, what could be better than that? And if you stumbled across my channel because of my discussions on enhancing general athleticism and building raw power and explosiveness, then Isaiah's channel is going to be right up your alley as well. And I highly, highly encourage you to head over there and subscribe. And that pretty much covers it, guys. I really don't watch that many YouTube channels or that much TV or really consume that much media at all in general. So, you know, you can't just throw a bunch of crap into my face and expect to win me over with it. The time that I allot for these things is pretty damn minuscule in my day. So I'm highly selective of how I choose to spend that time. And so when I endorse something or someone, it means that they're the real fucking deal, man. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did enjoy it, please remember to hit the like button before you go and share the video around so that it can get some damn views. And don't forget to leave me some love in the comments down below so that we can try to get some attention from our omniscient AI friend at YouTube, the algorithm. And if you guys have any other great fitness YouTubers that you recommend, then be sure to let us all know in the comments there as well. And that's all I got for today, guys. Keep training hard, and I'll catch you guys next time.